I started in healthcare when I was about 19 years old as a CNA. One of my friends came to me and said that where she was working had a program where they would pay for you to become certified as a CNA. And that seemed like something really good to me. I dropped out of high school when I was 16 and I didn't finish my high school degree. I didn't finish my high school and get my diploma. I dropped out, so I wondered what else I could do besides what I was doing. I was working in a video store, which I really loved, but the owner ended up selling the video store and I ended up losing my job. So here I was living on my own and I needed a way to pay my bills, and this seemed like something really interesting to me to do. I had no idea what CNAs did really, and you only needed an 8th grade education, so I thought, well, I mean, at least I do have that. But the experience I had had in nursing homes was that my great-grandmother was a resident in a nursing home and we would visit her there frequently. What I remembered was not good. It was people screaming in the corners, trying to find someone to get help. It was my grandmother was being pushed in a wheelchair and they broke her leg. So I wasn't sure if that was really something that I would want to do, but I come from a family of healthcare workers, CNAs, nurses. I guess I have some doctors in there too, but mostly CNAs and nurses. And one of the things that I thought of was that if I became a CNA, I would just want to be really mindful about not hurting people. But again, I had no clue what CNAs did. So I went to work as a CNA, and I did that for about 4 years in long-term care. And I really liked doing it, but I worked night shift and it was strenuous, and I was young, and I hurt my back, and I realized that that was not something that I could sustain for myself long-term and maintain a career. So I did go back to school to become an LPN after I got my GED. My grandma came to me and she said, you know, Stacy, you need to finish your high school diploma. So I got my GED, and after that, when you got your GED, they offered to give you a scholarship to go to college. We had a community college close by, and I ended up going to become an LPN. And thankfully I had experience as a CNA, so that applied to my LPN certificate. When I became an LPN, I started working in long-term care at night shift, because that's where everybody needs somebody, is night shift, and it actually worked really well for me at the time. I did that for about 11 years. And during that 11 years, I got to try different things as an LPN. But the thing that I really enjoyed is that I did a treatment nurse position for 7 years. And in doing that, I discovered I really liked wound care and I wanted to become wound certified. So I realized that in the area that I lived, becoming wound certified wasn't regulated at that time. You didn't have to be an RN, but it was likely that you wouldn't be recognized as wound certified as an LPN. So I went back to become an RN. And at the time, I had a 3-year-old, so I stopped working at the facility I was working at to focus on school full-time. Thankfully, I was able to do that. I became an RN with the hope of becoming wound certified, and when I went back to the place where I had worked for 11 years, they did not have a position for RNs. And so I started working in other nursing homes, long-term care facilities. I did a little stint in dermatology. I've done lots of things as an RN, and I eventually landed in hospice, where I've been for about 4 years, which is actually a job that I really love. And currently I'm working toward, I got to keep that education going. I'm working toward becoming a nurse practitioner when I grow up. But what I will say is that if I can do it, I hope to be inspiring to other people to realize that you can do it too, even if you don't do it in the time frame that you think you should. I remember, as a CNA, when I dropped out of high school, I really felt like a failure in my family because I come from a family of people who are really big on education and career-minded, working-minded. But I didn't finish high school. And so there was this stigma that I felt attached to that. And when I became a CNA, I realized that I wanted more from my life. I wanted to get more education. I wanted to do more for my career and be sustainable. So I do think that working as a CNA for 4 years gave me a good background to understand what it is that CNAs do and to understand how to support my CNAs better. Because I'll tell you, I worked with some amazing nurses as a CNA that also made me want to become a nurse. Additionally, one of my grandmothers was a nurse, and she did not go back to school to become a nurse until she was in her 50s. And I think I saw her as a success in my mind as a person who never stopped trying to achieve her dreams. And she worked as a nurse in a long-term care until she retired. And I think that she gave me the motivation to see that it didn't matter how old I was or how young I was, that it was possible to achieve those dreams that I had for myself. And becoming a nurse wasn't my original plan or dream, but I found out that I had an affinity for it and I was good at it, and it became my passion. And I think that that has helped me in healthcare to do something that I'm so passionate about. I love the patients and the people and the families that I meet, and I love being able to be a part of their healthcare journey. And I hope that I'm always providing a level of compassion and empathy throughout my nursing career, that I leave a legacy behind me, that anybody who knew me as a nurse would be able to say, hey, I knew that nurse and she was a good nurse. And you know what? She helped her CNAs. She liked her CNAs. She respected the people she worked with. I think that's big in nursing, and I think that is one of the things that has driven me as a nurse. I'm one of those people that's a slow goer. I do something for a while and I think, okay, well, but I want more. So sometimes that's just not realistic. I mean, after I worked as a CNA for 4 years, and then I got my certificate as an LPN, which was really hard. I worked hard for that certificate and I was really proud of myself. I did that for 11 years, and I just said to myself, I can't get to where I want to go with this degree, with this certificate, so I need to go further. And so I did get my associate's degree in nursing, my ADN, and become an RN. And now I'm working on my bachelor's degree because I realized I want more. And in order to get my master's degree and become a nurse practitioner, I have to finish this bachelor's degree first. But I'll tell you, at each point I started in my career, they said, well, they're not going to keep LPNs. They're going to do away with them completely. But I'll tell you what, I work with some really, really great LPNs, and I'm thankful that there are still LPNs working, because we need all the nurses we can get. And LPNs, RNs, we essentially do the same job in healthcare. And if we didn't have our LPNs and RNs, who would be nurses? Not everybody wants to work in long-term care, but I did it for over 20 years. And I would say that I got a lot of great experience working in long-term care. I never did work in a hospital. And so I have a lot of respect for ICU, med-surg, and all those nurses that work in hospitals, because while doing hospice, I've seen what they kind of go through, and mad respect. But long-term care is a completely different animal. So, as a CNA, you probably have one CNA to 10 to 15 residents in a good ratio, kind of setting, and that CNA is responsible for the personal cares, the feeding, and meeting the needs of the patient along with the nurse that's assigned to those patients. And a lot of times nurses are assigned to 30 to 50 patients on their own in a long-term care setting. That doesn't seem reasonable, but it's what happens, and I've seen a lot of amazing nurses get it done. And in long-term care, in a skilled nursing facility, we do get those patients that are coming from med-surg or after a surgical procedure, and we are the ones that are doing their physical therapy and their occupational therapy and their speech therapy with them. So we get to see them a lot of times in the skilled nursing side of things go back home after they've had a hip fracture or after they've had open heart surgery, or sometimes they come to us for lots of different reasons. But skilled nursing was great for me because it taught me a lot of skills that I really needed. IVs. I did peritoneal dialysis during my career. I've done, I've done too many things to really think about it. But, COVID happened, and my love for long-term care and my love for working in skilled care became really challenged, because that was really eye-opening when we went through COVID and we had all of those deaths and people who died without their families at their bedside. And I think that put me in touch with hospice nurses. I mean, I had worked with hospice regularly in skilled nursing, because truly skilled nursing and hospice kind of work hand in hand at end of life. And I'm thankful that I had a lot of hospice nurses in skilled nursing working with me. But that is what made the jump to hospice from skilled nursing after all the years that I worked in skilled nursing, is that COVID wow, it was taxing on families. It was taxing on the nursing staff. You couldn't keep people in there. Nobody wanted to take that home to their families. We were seeing people die. We were seeing people die alone. And we were put into those situations without the proper PPE to do our jobs. And I can't even imagine what ICU nurses were going through, because let me tell you, I've seen all those lines and tubes, and I commend you guys for what you did during COVID. But I digress. I had talked to a lot of hospice nurses during the COVID lockdowns, and they said, hey, you'd be really good at this. You should give it a try. And I had thought about it for about a year or two before I tried to put my foot in the door. And I'll tell you, that's a hard niche to get into, because it's like a different world altogether. But I've been doing hospice for about 4 years now. So what I really like about it is, you maybe have 4 to 6 patients on a good day, and you get to go to their home and sit with them one-on-one and actually give them really detailed care, because you are able to spend that time with them and not rush to the next person to get your med pass done on time. I've never done home health, but I've thought of that too, and I think home health nursing is probably very similar to hospice in that you're meeting people at their home and you get to give them a little bit more of an individualized attention in their health care. I think that is what attracted me to hospice initially. Not just that I needed something that had a lower ratio, but I needed something different. And I think that's the beautiful thing of nursing, is that there's so many areas that you can put yourself into. You're not limited to one area in nursing. And I think it's really important to find where you fit in nursing so that you have job satisfaction. Because I think that there's a lot of really great nurses that are not happy with what they're doing. And if they found what they were happy with, they would really be satisfied with their jobs long term. I think nursing is one of the most challenging jobs, and I think it's very rewarding in many ways. And we have people that don't appreciate us, and I get it. I understand why, but for the most part, I've had a lot of really amazing patients and families throughout my career that I will never forget, and experiences that I will remember when I'm no longer able to do this kind of work. And so I'm really thankful that I did fall into nursing and healthcare by becoming a CNA when I was 19. But I think my takeaway from this is that you don't have to stay where you are. You can change if you don't like what you're doing. You can change. You're not resigned to do something if you don't want to do it. And if you want to do something different, I think you should go for it. And if you didn't finish high school, I think that it's not too late to get your GED, to finish that high school diploma, and follow after your dreams. Whether that be nursing, whether that be something else, it's never too late to follow your dreams and become what you want to become in life.